What, the mic?
Yeah.
Where's your mic?
Yeah, because I've got one on my neck. We've set up now.
This is sick.
Well, I need a new one. But all that aside, I've got to say a massive thank you to Ben Shalom that's invited me to a media lunch. We are at the Shangri-La in London, and I feel quite posh today. For the first time in my life, I feel quite posh. We've had an amazing lunch. Thank you.
So do I. No, I didn't choose this.
Did you?
No.
Who chose it?
Our head of comms, Dan.
Interesting.
But it's nice. Very nice.
I've been waited on.
I know.
Like my wine has been, I'm someone that doesn't drink and it's been overflowing. But listen, it's fight week.
Yeah.
We've got to talk about Cheli versus Callum Simpson. A lovely fight, a good matchup, something that's been kind of lurking in the background for a while, Ben. Talk to us about getting this made.
Yeah, as you said, definitely a fight we knew could happen. Zach, lost to Mark Jeffers, which was a big loss for him, but then came back and beat Jack Cullen and won the British title. And so that gave him the chance. Callum Simpson was the mandatory for that fight. And so we thought at one point it would be Jack Cullen against Callum Simpson. Zach Cheli had other ideas, performed really well that night. Fantastic fighter, someone we've worked with for a long time, ups and downs. And we'll feel he's going into this with a lot more experience than Callum. Someone that knows his flaws and has had to come back from that, has got better, and will rise to the occasion and has been on the big stage before. This is Callum's real first test. And it's a big test, and it's not a test you would necessarily choose for a homecoming in your stadium in front of 7,000 people. But unfortunately for him, Zach Cheli was the British champion and the Commonwealth champion, and that's the titles that he wants. And we have a massive fight and a massive platform for them both. I mean, people talk about Callum, but for Zach, the reason he's headlining on Sky Sports is because of Barnsley. So it's as good for him as it is for Callum, in my opinion. He gets to headline on Sky Sports. Callum gets his homecoming, which is going to be phenomenal. And both of them have a huge platform to go out and do it for themselves.
What I really enjoy seeing is these homecoming fights. We've seen you build cruiserweight champion Chris Smith, putting them in their own area, bringing that whole fan base. Another football ground yet again. Talk to us about the innovation around that to get the community to support their local fighter.
No, it's mad. It feels very much like Bournemouth, how that felt the first time, because the people are so excited. Everyone knows it's going on. The shops, the barbers, the bars, and you have this sense of gratitude everywhere because it's like, wow, Sky Sports coming to our city or our town. And with Bournemouth it was like that, and because of that it snowballed and snowballed and snowballed, and then we ended up at the stadium selling it out and Chris wins the world title. And what's mad about Barnsley is it's way further ahead than Bournemouth was at the start. To do 7,000, and by the way we could have doubled it, tripled it.
You made it smaller.
Well, we had to.
Why did you do that? Sorry.
First of all, Barnsley, and I have to thank them for this because no other club in the 92, I believe, does a fight at their ground. And I shouldn't say this because I'll probably think again a week or two before the season starts. It's unheard of. You usually have 2 weeks to aim for in June. For them to do that was incredible. Obviously, that comes with some sacrifices, and that meant, right, the ring's going to be at one end, we're going to do this. They were just desperate to do it. So, hats off to them. Fantastic. Hopefully, we'll be back here in May, June time with the full stadium next year, but that will depend on what happens on Saturday night. And, it does feel like Bournemouth, and it feels like, Cardiff for Lauren Price, Newcastle for Savannah Marshall, Liverpool for Tasha Jonas. You start off, and it snowballs, but Barnsley's got something different because it's like everyone knows what's going on, and they've never had something like this before.
But what I like is the fact that you've introduced that. I think the thing is what you've really done well, and I do admire that, is the fact that you bring in the crossover. It's almost like football and boxing are two key sports in the UK. So you're bringing those extra eyes in from the football community to the boxing community, and there's that crossover that forms that nice conduit, that bridge, so we can start to get more eyes on the sport.
Without football, boxing struggles, I think, to really break through. And we see it every time. Our biggest viewing figures and our biggest audiences and our biggest nights are always when we can tie it into the football, connect a football club maybe to one of the... You saw even with Wardley Clark, I think one of the biggest moments of the campaign was at Ipswich Town. And then that came in on Easter Sunday after the back of football. Phenomenal numbers. And it helps with someone like Chris Smith or Callum Simpson, or someone that's very passionate about where they've come from and wants to sell thousands and thousands. And for me, growing up, obviously you talk about Ricky Hatton, but it was actually Josh Warrington for me that was like, wow, he does it so well. Because I used to hear stories about him going in the pubs around Leeds, handing out his tickets, finding the local Leeds fans and this and that, and suddenly you see what it ended up in, and he was fighting at Headingley, and he's fought at the arena plenty of times. So you got to... That's a perfect example for how a fighter can build, and hopefully we're going to see it with Ben Whittaker in Wolverhampton. Hopefully we're going to see it with Callum Simpson in here. We've seen it now with Lauren Price, who's got a long way to go in Cardiff as well. So it definitely works, and with the Sky Machine as well, it can really do well for the fighters.
We're going to touch on the Sky Machine because I think it's an interesting landscape that we've got with boxing at the moment, because you are also venturing out onto other platforms as well, but we'll discuss that in a minute. We've got to touch on Caroline Dubois, you know, one of my favourite fighters. I was gutted that I haven't seen her for a bit. Obviously she was ill, so she couldn't fight, but she's back. She's back,
and yeah, it's been a bit of a frustrating period, because when she turned over, I think she had like 5 fights in 10 months, and it's phenomenal.
The activity with her at the beginning was great,
ridiculous, and she performed, and she's just got stronger and stronger and stronger, and now she's getting to the real exciting part of her career. It's the interim WBC belt against Myra Moneo, who is a very, very good fighter, someone that's only lost because of a clash of heads, and feels that this is her opportunity as well. I thought you were bringing coffee over then. I was like,
so did I. I was like, oh, that's so kind of you.
But yeah, the full service. So yeah, it was. Look, you don't want to have favourites as a promoter, but she is a special talent.
And from the beginning, yeah, talk about having favourites. You've had her since she's turned over pro. There is going to be that bond there with the fighter, isn't there?
And to see, I think when you see a person change and develop in front of your own eyes, it's very special. And when we first met, she was so shy, but there was something. I think whenever anyone meets Caroline, you know there's a star in there. And I remember seeing that, and I remember the whole, like, speaking to the team at the time, thinking, this can be the face of women's boxing. She has the talent to go with it as well, and the temperament, and how she's developed inside and outside, and so young still. Like, what's exciting with Caroline is it's so early. You know, she could be in this sport for another 10, 15 years. So there's no rush. She just she takes her time, but she wants to break records, and yeah. Phenomenal talent to work with, great person, proud to be associated with her, and can't wait to see what she goes on to achieve.
And what I will say about Caroline is she has a bit of loyalty. I've seen her online. She will not let anyone go anywhere near you. She will defend you.
She's the only one.
She will. She starts tweeting, and she's like, almost like, leave Bennett alone. And I admire that, because you can see that her core values are built on loyalty.
No, she's as I say, amazing person, and someone that is going to go so far, not because of what she can do in the ring, but what she can do outside of it as well. And she's very passionate about that. And yeah, I can't wait to see what she goes on to achieve. She'll be a household name in sport, never mind boxing, and her big test on Saturday night.
So give us a rundown of the card then, and you know what we can expect on the card with the other fighters. I've seen you mention a few fighters on there. Let us know a little bit about them and why you chose them to be on that card. Are they local? Is this building like a local derby?
Well, Stevie McKenna's on there, who will fight Joe Laws. That's just a fun fight. Stephen McKenna's someone we've worked with for a long time. Him and his brother are very, very talented. We're seeing Aaron now in the in the Matchroom prize fighter concept. I think he's
Good
going to win
fight.
it. I think he's going to win it.
Kieran Conway's got coming up, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that both of them are really talented. It's Stevie's first venture at 154. Joe Law's coming off a big win against Michael Hennessy. So it's a great fight, that one. Conor Coyle's in there with Kyle Lamoti. I think for us, the Irish fans, particularly the Sky Sports subscribers, there's not really been much for them at all. And I think with the McKenna brothers in particular, there's something there that we want to build that Irish following for a long time. Maybe Katie Taylor's held that up. And maybe the Irish fighters haven't got their chance, particularly on the mainstream broadcast as much. There's a lot of local fighters on, but ultimately this sold out in 24 hours. And so you put the local fighters on, and there's a lot on the stream, but then you just want to put on some good fights. And so for Caroline to box in a stadium like this is a great experience too. And obviously looking forward to Stephen McKenna and Conor Coyle.
Yeah, Ben, it's been like a bit of a roller coaster of 3 years, and you know what I'm like. I'm never afraid to say what I think. You've been in a position where boxers started with Sky Sports. You're happy with the platform. It's the machine. There's a big audience. It's both on it's on terrestrial TV. You can watch it online. There's various ways to watch it. But you were almost like you were tied into them, and it's kind of like, yep, boxer, fighters, Sky Sports. Now we're starting to see you venture out, because we've got September the 21st, where you've got Tyler Denny and Joshua Boatsi. Yes, I understand that, Sky will possibly have rights for that, but that is going on to another global platform, which is DAZN. Now, this is me and my opinion. I like the fact that, and I'm going to give you credit for this, is the fact that you're now stepping out. And now if you have that strong stable of fighters, it doesn't really matter what platform that you're aired on, because now you're in a stronger position with your fighters, with whoever wants to promote it, to say, actually, we're going to broadcast your fighters. That kind of journey, that kind of shift, where before you were kind of like locked in, but now it's like, well, actually, there's so much out there.
Yeah, I mean, look, our duty is to deliver for Sky Sports, and I'm very,
I'm going to be controversial.
Also, like, you've got to look at it from my perspective. I went around broadcasters for a long time, 5 Spike, BT Sport, ITV4, and was struggling in terms of just building a business, and had to start. And Sky gave me a lot, and I'll always be extremely loyal to them for what they've done for me. And so we want to give back, and we want to make sure that they build the best fighters. But I also believe that the British boxing needs Sky Sports as well. Who else is going to build the stars as well as they can? You look at the Olympians over the weekend, but you look at the ones from Tokyo. You mentioned Caroline Dubois there. I think everything can work well. Everything serves a purpose. DAZN are a fantastic platform that allow us to see global fights that we otherwise wouldn't see. Sky Sports can build stars that we need in the sport, and we need stars in the sport, and we need the future proofing of boxing to happen as well. So I think what is good is that, as you said, you're starting to see everything integrate. You're starting to see, obviously, the influence of Saudi has made it easier, because it's almost like there's someone to say, stop messing around. Overseeing. Yeah. And I always thought that when I used to think about this, how could we actually get promoters getting on and working together? I always thought maybe the board have to say, if you got a license, you have to meet here every month, and we stop you clashing, and we do this, and you try and develop relationships that way. And almost Turkey Al Sheikh and Saudi have almost said, hang on, this we can do this, and we're going to make sure that this happens, and fair play. And maybe that was the only way it could have ever worked. And yeah, I think it's amazing in that sense, and it's great in the sport, and it feels like the people were saying, it feels like a weight off the shoulders, because otherwise it can be very, it still is a bit like that, but I don't like it when it's almost like clicky. Promoter v promoter, and it's clicky, and it's this and it's that. Ultimately it's a sport, and it should be done on merit. and hopefully I think that's what we're going to see now over the next couple of years. And so just delighted to be in boxing at a time like this.
But I'm kind of like happy for you as well, because I've been there. I've seen what's happened, and obviously even up until recently there was information that was leaked. We don't know, it's alleged, it's not concrete, that sort of DAZN are now looking at Queensbury. So we sort of like seeing DAZN filter out almost like a tree with roots, almost like a virus filtering through to all of the promoters, Golden Boy, Top Rank, Matchroom, Queensbury, and now Boxer. And it's almost like, okay, are we going to have this, like, we've got Turki Al Sheikh, one of the key influencers, then we've got DAZN, and then we've got the promoters under there. So we're getting all of the fights across the promotional networks fighting each other. All of the fighters fighting each other. And for a fan, I'm loving it.
Yeah, no, it's a dream. As a fan now, it's a dream. And obviously next week I'm going, just for an example, Martin Bacoli fighting Jared Anderson is an example of a fight that in a normal boxing world just never happens. It's not even like, if I said that to Top Rank, they'd have laughed at me and put down the phone. You know, it was one of them. It's one of those fights that it's just so ridiculous, but now it can happen, and for a fan, it's unbelievable.
We are spoiled.
I believe so, and I believe, yeah, we should remember that now as fans of the sport, that this isn't normal, and it's brilliant. For me, I like to always think we have to still build stars. I've always been a believer that stars do carry the sport, and we need to make sure that stars are still created from the ground up, and allow people to develop as well. Like, you know, you look at someone like Caroline, or you look at someone like Ben Whittaker, or you look at someone like Adam Azim, and when they're very young, they'll always need to develop. And really, the job of a promoter is to try and make them as famous as possible and make sure as many people watch their fights as possible, so that when the big fights happen, they're bigger for the sport. And so I think, to be honest, everyone recognises that. And so it's just trying to get the ecosystem right, where you still have that element, where people can still dream. You know, you want a kid like Callum Simpson still being able to dream that he will get the big moments, and he can fight for something in the gyms, and he can fight in his hometown, and he can fight in a stadium. Like, that's what boxing is all about. It gives kids from nowhere a dream, or a way out, and that's what shouldn't be lost. But as a fan, it's incredible what's going on.
It is incredible. And talking about incredible, let's talk about, we're going to ask, because I spoke to Eddie Hearn a couple of weeks ago, or last week, and we spoke about, obviously, you signing Chris Eubank Jr. Now, this is where I've got to put my hands up and say I didn't read the flyer properly. I read it as a signing, but it's come across as a partnership. So talk to an ignorant fool like me, Ben, and tell me what a partnership is, a difference between you and, like, signing a fighter.
All it is one, it's long term, and two, there's commercial elements where we'll look to bring in sponsors. We involve Chris Eubank Jr.'s brand in the events that he's in with Boxer. To be honest, I think too much has been read into that. I see it as pretty much the same thing, and obviously we're delighted to be involved with such a high-profile fighter.
When I talk about scratch records, because before the partnership was announced, it was, okay, we're talking about potentially Canelo. Now Canelo's fighting Edgar Berlanga. Location still to be confirmed for that, but whatever, let's park that. The breakdown in communication, I know Canelo demands funds, he demands an amount. We saw what he's asked to fight Benavidez and what he sent out to Turki Al Sheikh. I understand that maybe Chris Eubank Jr. is similar. I understand that the value might be, there's difference in value, but from a promoter's point of view,
oh, look, I'll always be honest, we'd have loved to make that fight. Imagine.
In the UK, would you have done it?
No, I would have done it in Las Vegas for that one. Obviously, the UK didn't quite work because of the September 21st show. So even though it was never an option, but it definitely wasn't an option because of that. But the offer was for Las Vegas. I'd have loved to do it, but, you know, ultimately the value has to be right for Chris. And I think there's a feeling that that fight's going to come around again. And I think between both parties, there's that feeling. And so, unfortunately, there wasn't a meeting on the value of that for September the 14th. But of course, as a promoter, you know, that's what dreams are made of.
No-brainer.
Yeah.
A roadmap then for Chris Eubank Sr. Obviously, we know that he's come over from Wasserman. Another one of the comments was made that basically he wanted to give me fights. And Matchroom said they're not going to do that. Yeah.
I don't know where these things come from, but
hey,
look,
maybe my interviews, I don't know.
Personally, I think Matchroom made it clear they really wanted to sign him, and ultimately, and as they will, and as they have a right to do, they'll say whatever they need to say to make it look like they chose not to sign him. You know, obviously, I can't be bothered with it. I can't be bothered anymore with back and forth. They wanted to sign him. They didn't sign him. And now they're talking stuff that I've never seen or heard of. So,
fights ahead for Chris Eubank. What can we expect?
We just actually made a decision on that. So,
news imminent, Ben?
News imminent. Next 7 to 10 days, I expect an announcement. So, or next couple of weeks, definitely. But it's exciting because he's been out the ring for a year. It's been a tough year for any boxer being out the ring. And so he wants to get back in, and there's big fights. And to be honest, he's still not won a world title. He needs to win a world title. He's a good enough fighter to win a world title. And then there's some major fights as well for him as well. And yeah, hopefully our job is to deliver them, keep him active, and make sure those big fights happen. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
We're looking forward to it. So finally, then, when we look at like a schedule of fights, we know that we've got this weekend. We've got August the 3rd. We've got September the 21st. Are there any other dates that you can leak out to us? I know you've mentioned Ben Whittaker. I know you've mentioned like a homecoming for him. So
September 28th looks like we'll have a show. One at the end of October. Then obviously we're working closely with, as everyone is, working closely and really supportive of Turkey Acheive and His Excellency and what cards and fights can be made there.
Does that mean it's October the 12th?
No.
Viterbia, Bivol, could you have a fight on there?
It will be up to him, and he makes those decisions, and he wants to announce those anything himself. But look, for me, I'm glad that we're now a major part of that, because it is an unbelievable time in the sport, and so we've had to adjust our business, because up until June of this year, our priority was pay-per-view fights, and then when all the big fights are going to Saudi, you need to adjust your business. You need to make sure you're putting still on the British ones, but then now your outlet for the big fights is Saudi, really, and they want to put on the big fights. So adjusting the business, being able to work around that. It's a new environment, but it's a great environment because the fights are there to be made. But
you're doing that, and even though you have got that Saudi investment or interest, as it were, you are still doing fights in the UK. You're not neglecting the UK because...
Exactly. Look, we went heavy first 6 months of the year. We did Maya Jonas, Buatsi Aziz, Wardley Clark. Price had a homecoming where she won a world title against McCaskill. Obviously, Lawrence went out to Poland and won his world title. Then Riakpor's Chris Billen-Smith at the stadium. Now got Simpson Cheli at another stadium. We're doing it, and we're very passionate about it, and we want that to continue. But obviously, to see the big fights now happen, and when the fighters get to that point where they're ready and they want the big fights, the outlets are there, and it's phenomenal.
Well, I'm really happy for you. I'm happy for the progress of Boxer. It's been a journey, and it is a journey.
Still is.
And it's not coming to an end anytime soon. So literally, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me. And yeah, I'm going to start to get some new fighters on. So until the next time, Ben.
People say I'm toxic, and honestly, I don't care.